On the 1st of March, 1973, a Thursday, our little convoy of a Volkswagen camper van and a Ford pickup truck crested a hill, and once again we saw the barn that would be our home for the next 25 years. On arrival, we were 7, myself and the family of 6, or 12, counting 2 Peekapoos, Tor and Poogie, a husky mix, Chemo, the parakeet Yoskeen, and the goldfish, who had been kept alive on the 16-hour trip by the oldest daughter, Sarah, armed with a tire pump for aeration. We were very lucky, although we would not realize it for another year. It was cold and breezy, but not typical for early March in upstate New York. As this photo from a later year demonstrates, winter did not normally relinquish its grip on the snowbelt area so soon. There were difficulties when we arrived. David, the oldest boy, was sick with chicken pox, and Tor, one of the Peekapoos, christened our arrival by leaping about the cabin of the camper while having diarrhea, a less than auspicious beginning. Our first order of business on entering the barn was to check on the tools we had purchased and stored the previous summer. Yes, the rototiller we had traveled to Troy, New York to buy was there. Yes, so was the chainsaw we got at the local hardware. But most importantly, so was the 85,000 BTU kerosene space heater. It was below freezing in the barn, which had sat empty all winter, and the stone walls of the lower level would take a long time to relinquish their cold. Thus, the sound of a small jet plane at takeoff would be the soundtrack of our lives for several weeks. Fortunately, the barn was considerably less than airtight, or this account would have been much shorter. Our next task, after unloading the truck, was to put up plastic sheeting to minimize the area we were trying to heat, hence the black walls. Note the electric washer. It will be passed over in favor of an older technology. David, the boy with chickenpox, was kept in semi-quarantine in the camper with an electric heater run from one of the few electric outlets in the barn. By Monday, all the children were enrolled and off to school, where they would be snugly warm for at least part of the day. The moving van arrived on Friday, so there were boxes everywhere and no place to put anything. No closets, no cupboards, no shelves. So, work to do. Time to start putting up walls for bedrooms. The space heater was sufficient to allow working in shirt sleeves. Everyone helped with the building process, and we all learned a lot about rough carpentry very quickly. Next step was contacting a local mason to build chimneys for us. The mason would do the block and tile work while we mixed the mortar and hauled materials to him, on scaffolding inside and by ladder outside. A total of 3 chimneys were built, each nearly 40 feet high, 2 for heating stoves, and 1 for the antique cook stove we had purchased and hauled from Illinois, not realizing that they were relatively plentiful in rural New York at that time. It is a measure of the depressed economy of the area that the local hardware store regularly stocked such things as kerosene lanterns, galvanized wash tubs, and chamber pots. One item that we found locally was this hand-powered washing machine seen here in retirement. It operated by pulling the lever back and forth, which caused the agitator to rotate much as more modern machines do. A slight drawback was the fact that the body was made of wooden staves like a barrel, which needed to soak up water and swell before it could be used, and still tended to leak like a sieve. Wash day involved pumping water out of the deep well, 100+ strokes to start if you remember, and then heating the water in an old milking machine base held by a tripod over an open fire. Then you dump the hot water into the machine and pump more water to repeat the process in case too much ran out. Because of the constant leakage and need to refill, the washing operation took place in the well house attached to the barn. The whole process was lit by Coleman lanterns and was frequently a whole family affair. The children, at least initially, found fun in the adventure and were eager to help. By May, we were convinced that we would survive. We had been making plans for the garden, ordering seeds and fruit trees, and thinking about getting chickens and a cow. And, importantly, we had decided on a name for our undertaking, Fieldstone Farm.